Alright, now that I have things largely animated, what I want to go ahead and do is do a little bit of rendering. So let's take a look at that. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to come back to my render properties. And I just want to take a look at a few things here. I've got my render engine to Eevee. It all depends on what you've done. I mean, sometimes you want Eevee, sometimes you want Cycle. I'm going to stick with Eevee. Be aware of your settings under sampling. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on a few of these items. Ambient occlusion, bloom, maybe the screen space reflections. They do make a subtle difference in the scene. And then what I'm going to do is come back to my output properties, and I'm going to take a look at a few things here. So I've got my resolution, determining the size of the camera when things render. I've got the frame rate, which I'm going to leave at 24 frames per second. I am going to, now the frame range, I'm going to leave things as they're set up, starting at frame 1 and going through frame 700, even though there's not much happening on the back half of the video, but maybe later on I might put some text or some things in it as well. And then I'm going to move down to output. Intuitively, you would think that you would use a video format. And if you're doing something very simple, short and sweet, without a lot going on, by all means do so. But the more complicated the project is, the more difficult that's going to be. Blender, just like any other program that has a lot going on, can crash. And if you're trying to render a video, that video file will likely end up corrupted and be unusable after Blender took a lot of time to create the video. And just various other reasons. So usually, or very commonly, one thing that you could do is just use video images and then later on compile those images into a video editor to create your video. So I'm going to use a PNG because it's a very clean format for images. And then I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to, rather than save to the temp file, I'm going to find my stuff and I'll just create a new directory. And I'll go ahead and push accept and accept. And then at that point, I can go up to render and I can go ahead and I can render animation. And we'll see what we get. So it so happens that Blender did actually crash on me, as I suggested could happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to find where things are saved to, and it looks like it made it up to file 195. So with that knowledge, I will come back in here and I will set start at 195, and I will go to render and I will render animation again, and we'll see where that gets us. Okay, so the render's complete. And this is what I have. And if we go up, well, if we go up and look at the beginning and look at a few of these images, they look like what I would expect. This is one of the opening frames. So the camera zoomed in. This is right before it starts zooming out. But then I start getting things like this. Or things like this. Or things like this, where there's the scene and then somehow there's something obstructing it. So it's almost as if there's a bunch of things in the scene that I've forgotten about. And it just so happens that I do have a bunch of extra things in the video. So we will look at that next.